Greenland has 56,000 people. Yet the United States wants more military access. Denmark refuses to lose control. China keeps circling its minerals. Russia is building power across the Arctic. This is not about snow. It is about radar, rare earths, shipping lanes, and who gets to move first before the map changes for good. Greenland is the world's largest island. It covers more than 2 million square kilometers, which makes it roughly the size of Western Europe. But the population is around 56,000 people, most of them concentrated in a handful of coastal towns, because the interior is buried under an ice sheet up to 3 kilometers thick. The climate is extreme. Infrastructure is minimal. Getting from one settlement to another often means a boat or a small aircraft, because roads between towns do not exist. Politically, Greenland is autonomous. It governs its own domestic affairs under a parliament called the Inatsisartut, but it remains part of the Kingdom of Denmark, which retains control over foreign policy and defense. That arrangement has worked for decades, but the relationship is under quiet pressure, because Greenland's government has made independence a long-term goal, and that goal depends almost entirely on one thing: economic self-sufficiency. That is where the resources come in. The ice sheet is retreating. Not everywhere at the same rate, and not without complexity, but the overall trend is clear: coastlines that were previously inaccessible for much of the year are becoming reachable for longer periods. That changes the calculation around ports, extraction and logistics. What lies beneath and around Greenland is significant. Rare earth elements. Uranium. Graphite. Zinc. Iron. Potential oil and gas reserves in offshore areas that were difficult to reach when sea ice was heavier. Greenland's own government strategy for 2025 to 2029 places mineral resources at the center of its economic development plan. The deposits at Kvanefjeld and Tanbreez are among the largest of their kind in the world, and international interest around them, from European governments, American companies and others, has been building for years. This is not a discovery. Geologists have known about these deposits for a long time. What has changed is access. And when access changes, so does interest. The United States has been present in Greenland since the Second World War. That is not new. What is worth understanding is why that presence has remained, and why American military leadership has been publicly discussing the need to expand it. Pituffik Space Base, formerly known as Thule Air Base, sits in the northwest of Greenland, roughly 1,200 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle. It hosts radar systems, space surveillance infrastructure and early warning capabilities for ballistic missiles. Geographically, Greenland sits at the entrance point between North America and Europe. Anything traveling over the Arctic, a missile, a satellite pass, a military aircraft, crosses or approaches Greenlandic airspace. That position is not symbolic. It is structural. In 2026, American military leadership made public statements about the need for additional presence in multiple locations across Greenland, beyond the current single base at Pituffik. The reasoning given was collective security and Arctic defense. That reasoning is not invented. The Arctic has become a more active space for all major military actors, and a gap in surveillance or response capability at this latitude would be a real gap. But Denmark formally holds sovereignty over Greenland's defense and foreign affairs, and Greenland's own government has its own interests and its own voice. Nuuk is not simply a recipient of decisions made in Copenhagen or Washington. Greenlandic politicians have been explicit about wanting to control how their territory is used and by whom. The tension here is not dramatic in the way geopolitical conflicts usually appear. It is quieter than that. It is about who controls the air above, the sea around, the cables underneath, and the data moving through all of it. A country does not need to own land if it can control what happens around it. The Arctic is opening. That sentence has been repeated so many times it has started to lose weight, but the underlying fact is real. As sea ice retreats, routes that were previously navigable only during short summer windows are becoming usable for longer periods each year. The Northern Sea route along Russia's Arctic coast is the most developed example. Russia has been investing in it for years: icebreakers, ports, military infrastructure, administrative presence. It connects the Atlantic and the Pacific with significantly shorter transit distances than the traditional southern routes through the Suez or Panama canals. Russia's Arctic military posture has expanded steadily. Airfields, radar stations, submarine bases, and early warning systems across a vast northern coastline. The intent is not secret. Russia treats the Arctic as a strategic priority and has said so clearly in its official documents and military planning. China's position is different but equally deliberate. China has no Arctic coastline, but in 2018 it declared itself a near-Arctic state, a framing that has no legal standing in international law but signals an intention to be involved. China has participated in Arctic research, invested in infrastructure in the region, and sought access to ports, minerals, and shipping corridors. It has also shown interest in Greenlandic mining projects, though several of those bids have been blocked or reviewed on security grounds by Danish or Greenlandic authorities. What both Russia and China understand, and what NATO has been saying openly, is that Greenland's position on the map matters. It sits between the North American continent, the North Atlantic, and the Arctic Ocean. Radar coverage from Greenland reaches deep into the Arctic. Port access on its western coast connects to Atlantic shipping lanes. Subsea cables pass through its surrounding waters. No single actor wants an adversary to gain a position there before they do. That logic, not dramatic declarations, but quiet pre-positioning, is what is driving the current level of attention. The ice is melting. But the real thing opening up is competition. It is worth being honest about what we do not know, and about where the straightforward explanations are probably accurate. Not every military base is a secret program. Pituffik does what the United States says it does: radar, surveillance, early warning. That infrastructure has existed through multiple administrations and has been reviewed, reported on, and scrutinized by journalists, researchers, and allied governments for decades. The presence is real and the stated purpose is broadly consistent with how it functions. Not every resource project is one step away from production. Extracting minerals in Greenland is genuinely difficult. The logistics are expensive. The climate limits operational windows. Environmental regulations, both Greenlandic and international, apply. Several projects that looked commercially promising a decade ago are still waiting for conditions that make extraction financially viable. Interest from foreign governments and companies is real, but interest is not the same as extraction. And the local population is not passive in this. Greenland's 56,000 people have a government, a parliament, a set of political priorities, and a clear sense that their territory is theirs to decide about. Large-scale foreign military or industrial expansion without local consent is not something Greenlandic political leadership has accepted quietly, and there is no particular reason to assume that will change. What is true is that security is a word that covers a great deal of ground. It can mean radar systems and it can mean strategic resource control. It can mean defending allies and it can mean ensuring no competitor gains a position that would be difficult to dislodge later. The official story is not necessarily false. It is just incomplete. Greenland is not important because it hides one big secret. There is no single reveal here, no hidden facility that explains everything. The reason it matters is more structural than that. Three things are converging in the same place at the same time. A body of natural resources that was largely inaccessible is becoming reachable. Military and surveillance infrastructure that was built for one era of Arctic competition is being re-evaluated for a different one. And climate change is rewriting the physical map faster than most international agreements or governance frameworks were designed to handle. Major powers are not waiting to see how this resolves. They are positioning now, through bases, through diplomatic missions, through investment proposals, through research programs, and through conversations with Greenlandic politicians that rarely make international headlines. The logic is straightforward: positions established before the situation fully develops are cheaper and more durable than positions sought after the competition has already moved. The question of what Greenland becomes an independent state, a territory that deepens its Danish ties, a zone of managed international access, or something with no clear precedent, is genuinely open. And the people with the most direct stake in that answer are the 56,000 who actually live there. Who do you think will shape Greenland's future? Greenlanders, Denmark, the United States, or whoever gets there first?